Thanks for joining our channel, Come Draw With Us. Today I'm going to walk you through the step-by-step process of how to draw this adorable bat. Okay, let's go ahead and make our bat. We're going to start by making the shape of the head and the body. So just using a monoline brush and selecting a medium to dark gray, go ahead and draw a circle and hold your finger down so it makes it a perfect circle, and then go ahead and drop the color in. We're going to center the circle in the middle of the canvas. And when you see those yellow lines appear, that means it's the center. So you should see that the cross in the middle of it. Now we want to erase away the edges of the circle. So click on your eraser brush, and then in your materials library, you're going to have a brush called the noise brush. Go ahead and swipe it to the left to duplicate it because we're going to make a change to it. So click on the duplicated brush and then click on grain. And this scale right here, we want to change to 85%. So you can just click on the percentage, change it there, and click done. That's the brush we're going to erase with. So go ahead and erase around the outside of the circle. You can still see a defined line. We're going to go ahead and erase away all of that and try not to touch the inner gray circle. The next thing we're going to do is click on our magic wand and then click on noise. We're going to drag our pencil across until about we get to 60% up here. We're going to change the scale to 25% and the octaves to 50%. Go ahead and leave the turbulence at 70. Then go back to your magic wand and click on perspective blur. This dot should be already in the center of your circle. If it's not, just go ahead and drag it to the center and then scroll your brush to the right for 100%. And this gives it kind of that furry look. We're going to go ahead and duplicate it 2 times to give it more of a filled out look, and then merge those layers together. So we want to duplicate this again because we want one for the head and one for the body. The head is going to be the layer on top, so let's just go ahead and rename them. So now we want to resize them. We want the head to be larger than the body, and also we want to keep it centered on the canvas. When you click on the arrow tool, the selection tool, make sure you're on uniform. We'll go ahead with this for now, and then at the end we can always resize it too to adjust the proportions. Okay, the first thing we want to do is draw the wings. So go back to your body layer, add a new layer, and then move it to the bottom. And then we want to set up the symmetry tool. So click on your wrench icon, click on drawing guide, edit drawing guide, and then click on symmetry. It should default to vertical symmetry. If it doesn't, click on options and check the vertical here. And click done. So now using a purple color and making sure that the assisted layer is on, we're going to go ahead and draw the shape of the wings. Connect the purple in the back so that you can drag and drop the color in. And then here you can also go ahead and arrange the proportion of the wings. So click on the selection tool, change it to a free form, and go ahead and arrange it the way you want it. Now let's add some detail to the wings. So go back to your wing layer, add a new layer, click on it and make it a clipping mask. And then using a dark purple, almost black even, go ahead and draw the structure of the wings. And again, we also want to make sure this layer is on drawing assist. Go back to your purple wing layer and add a new layer. It will default as a clipping mask. And using a different dark purple, we're going to use a texture brush. So go to your texture library, and then there's a brush called Tessellated, and that's the one we want to use. And also make sure this layer is set to drawing assist. And go ahead and just add the detail to the wings. I think you can see that. It just gives it this design on the wings for a little more detail. And now we're going to add some shading and highlights. So going back to your wing layer, add a new layer, change the blend mode to color burn, and then select a medium gray color using your soft brush, which you can find in your airbrushing category. Add some shading and turning this layer on to drawing assist as well. We're going to soften out this shade by clicking on the selection tool, clicking on the magic wand, and then click Gaussian blur. And we're going to blur it out maybe about 10%. I'm going to duplicate that layer just to make it stand out a little bit more, and I'll just merge it down. Now we're going to add some highlight. So add a new layer. Let's make it on drawing assist right away, and change the blend mode to overlay. And then using a lighter purple, and also still using your soft brush, go ahead and add some highlights. I'm going to use the Gaussian blur tool for this as well, so drag it out about 10%. And I'm going to try duplicating this one also. It's just going to stand out a little bit more. We can merge it down, and if it's too bright, we can just lower the opacity just a little bit. So that gives us the detail of our wings. Let's go ahead and group all of these layers together, because we're going to have so many layers in the end. This will just help us stay organized, and we'll just rename this. Now let's work on his body. So go to your body layer, add a new layer, and make it a clipping mask. And then change the blend mode to color burn. And we can also make this drawing assist. And then using a medium gray color and using the soft brush, we're going to add some shading around the whole circle as well as underneath the head. We want to smooth it out by using the Gaussian blur tool to about 10%. We'll add a highlight to his body as well. So go back to the body, add a new layer, and then just using a light gray, almost white, go ahead and just add some highlight to the top of his body. That's all we need to do for his body, so let's group those 3 layers together and rename that. Now we're going to go ahead and add his ears. So above the body layer, add a new layer and just make sure it's below the head. And then using a dark gray color and using your monoline brush, let's make sure this layer is set to drawing assist, and then we'll go ahead and draw the shape of the ears. Connect the back and the black so that we can color drop, and then add a new layer and move it to the bottom, and then make it a drawing assist, and then select a pink color and go ahead and fill in the ears. We just need to add a few details. We're going to add some shading and highlights to the pink, and we'll add some hair texture to the dark color. So first on the pink layer, add a new layer and make it a clipping mask. Set the blend mode to color burn and set the layer to drawing assist. Using a medium gray color and using your soft brush, go ahead and add some shading. We're going to soften that out by using this Gaussian blur tool about 10%. Then I'm going to add a new layer and do the same thing, make it a color burn, turn on drawing assist, and make it a clipping mask. And I'm just going to use a slightly darker gray color just to add a little bit more dimension. And we'll use Gaussian blur on this as well. About 10%. Now we just want to add a highlight. So go back to your pink layer, add a new layer. You can change the blend mode to overlay and turn on the drawing assist. And then using a light pink, going to add some shading to the outside. We can use the Gaussian blur tool on this one as well, just to soften it up, maybe 5%. Now we need to add some hair texture to the top, to the skin layer of his ears. So go to this dark gray layer, add a new layer. We don't want it to be a clipping mask, but we do want to turn on drawing assist. And then when you go to your materials brush, scroll towards the bottom and you have some hairbrushes. We'll use this short hairbrush, and using a black, let's go ahead and add some texture to it. Just so that I can see it better, I'm actually going to change the color of my ears to a little bit lighter gray, just so we can see it better. Make your brush size about 20% and just go ahead and cover the ear layer. We can reduce the size of the brush and draw some hair on the outside of the ears as well. We'll stick with that for now. Now let's add the eyes to his face. So go to your head layer, add a new layer, and we're going to draw one eye first and then we'll duplicate it. So go ahead and use white, and we don't need it to be a clipping mask and we don't need the drawing assist to be on. Going back to your monoline brush, go ahead and just make a perfect circle by drawing a circle and hold your finger down and drop in the white. We'll resize the eye once we've drawn the whole thing. Then go ahead and duplicate this white layer, click on it and click on Alpha Lock. We want to fill it with black. So select black and then touch the layer and click fill layer. We're going to lower this size, but when we do, make sure it's set to uniform so it stays a perfect circle. I'll go about there. We want to erase any of the black that's outside of the white. So select your white layer, click select, and then come to the bottom and click invert. Now go back to the black layer, select it, and click clear. And that simply erases anything that was outside of the white. We're now going to duplicate this black layer and we're going to turn it back to white. So click on it to make it alpha lock, go to your white, and click fill layer. We're going to reduce this size just a little bit. This is going to be the highlight of the eye. We're going to erase away most of this. So on this layer, turn off the alpha lock, and then with your eraser brush set to your soft brush, go ahead and erase away most of this highlight. And we want to soften up this outer edge, so now use the Gaussian blur tool, maybe just about 5%, and it just makes it a little bit softer. we also want to add a white dot. So go to your soft brush and add another highlight up here. To give it some dimension, we want to add some shading to the white of the eye. So go back to this bottom white layer, add a new layer and make it a clipping mask. And then just select a dark gray or even black, and using your soft brush, add some shading around the outsides of the white. If it's too dark, you can always reduce the opacity. I'm going to add one more layer and do it again using a clipping mask, just making it a pure black and just adding a slightly smaller shadow on the outside. We want to soften up both of those layers, so go to your Gaussian blur on each of those layers and soften it up about 5%. So this is what the eye is going to look like. We're going to group all of these layers together, all of these eye layers, and then just go ahead and duplicate it. Just having the top one selected, click on the selection tool and just move it to the right. So now we just need to resize these to be about what we want. So let's select them both and then just reduce the size until you're happy with the size of the eye. You want to place it towards the middle of the head. We want it to be a fairly large forehead. As well, make sure the eyes are centered. That looks good for now, and at the end we can always resize everything if we're unsure. We're going to draw on the nose and the fangs and the mouth. So just use your calligraphy, your monoline brush, and draw a little mouth with a couple of nostrils. I'm going to make it smaller. I'm just drawing two kind of slanted lines for the nostrils. And I'm going to add a new layer and move it beneath the mouth. And then I'm just going to use a lighter gray to draw the fangs. Just to keep it the same, I'm going to turn on the drawing assist for this one. Something like that. Now we're going to add some shading and highlights to the face, and then we'll be done with this guy. So go to your head layer, add a new layer, make it a clipping mask, turn on drawing assist, and change the blend mode to color burn. Using a medium to dark gray and using your soft brush, go ahead and add some shading around the shape of the face and around the eyes, as well as a little bit underneath his mouth and nose. We're going to do the eye shadow on a different layer first. Let's just soften this outside shadow up a little bit, doing Gaussian blur to about 15%. We'll add a new layer, make it a clipping mask, turn on drawing assist, change it to color burn, and then now we'll add some shading behind the eyes. We'll use the Gaussian blur tool on this shading as well, about 10%. And then I'm just gonna go in, do this one more time with a little bit darker gray. Add a new layer, make it a clipping mask, turn on drawing assist, change it to color burn, and then using a very dark gray, almost black, we're just gonna make it a little bit more defined. We're going to blur that one out as well, about 9%. We want to add a little bit of highlight to his forehead and his nose area. So click add a new layer, make it a clipping mask, and then using a very light gray or almost white and using your soft brush, just go ahead and add a little bit of highlight to his forehead and to around his nose. Even on his cheeks a little. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and resize him a little bit. I feel like his body is a little too big, or I guess his head is a little too small. So I'm gonna try resizing his ears and head and eyes. So I'm just gonna select all of those layers so that I can make sure I keep them all proportionate to each other. And just resize it, make it a little bit bigger. Oops, I forgot the teeth in there. I think I like that just a little bit better. The last thing we need to do is just add some feet on this guy. So go to the very bottom, add a new layer. You can move it to the very bottom, and you're going to use black, and you want your soft brush set to, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5%. Turn on the drawing assist and go ahead and just dab a couple of circles at the bottom for his feet sticking out. We can turn off the drawing assist, the drawing guide, and now you can see what your little guy looks like.